For the next one, we have here the presenters. Jesy is a legal professional with diverse academic background and rich professional experiences. She has an LLM from Eastern University and LLB from Brack University. She has a track record of excellence in studies and research. May I call upon Jesy Chakma to make her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving me the opportunity. First of all, good evening and good morning, everyone. I am Jesy Chakma. Before presenting my paper, I would like to thank Mr. Anwar Zahid, sir, for guiding me along the way to the NSRIC International Conference. So my topic is on the human rights violation in Chittagong Hill Tracts according to the international human rights law. So this research paper is dedicated to the indigenous people who deserve to enjoy their human rights freely in the Hill Tracts region in Bangladesh through the lens of the international human rights law. It primarily delves into the historical context to the indigenous communities and their cultural heritage, providing their insights, their entitlement to rights, and the rationale behind it. So let me go back to the background of the Chittagong Hill Tracts at first. So Chittagong Hill Tracts is basically an hilly area in southern part of Bangladesh, bordering India and Myanmar. So Chittagong Hill Tracts is basically divided into three parts: Rangamati, Bandarban, and Khagrachari. There are 11 types of different tribes from different communities living there since 16th century. Under the International Labour Organization, Convention 107 was revised because of the controversies and the renamed Indigenous and the Tribal renamed into Indigenous and the Tribal People Convention 1989, and the convention long is 169, and it was forced on September 9, 1991. This Convention 169 recognizes the indigenous people rights to self-determination within a nation state while setting standards for national governments regarding indigenous people economic, socio-cultural, and political rights, including the right to their land. So this is why Chittagong Hill Tracts people recognizes themselves as indigenous people, and most of the people living there are living there in hilly areas, and they are largely Buddhist. And these tribes have their way of livelihood by the use of zoom cultivation. So this may not be much familiar among all, but this is a local and traditional way of method for the zoom cultivation. So this these tribal people have their own language, own tradition, own culture, alphabets, ethnicity, and the customary system. But in the 20th century, many things have changed, and the tribal people in Chittagong Hill Tracts became the victim of this change. Yet in this 20th century, they are struggling with their ethnicity recognition. And now Chittagong Hill Tracts is under the territory of Bangladesh, and Bangladesh recognizes these tribals as minority, which is known as Khudra Nirogoshti under the Minorities Cultural Institution Act 2010. So it is basically important to know from the British era so that people can understand why indigenous people in Chittagong Hill Tracts feel suppressed by the government because of their land, ethnicity, and their human rights recognition. Before the British colonization, the indigenous people from Chittagong Hill Tracts were very much independent. Their Chakma kings were free, and they independently enjoyed their ruling. But during the British government era, they had enacted the Chittagong Hill Tracts regulation in 1900, and the Chittagong Hill Tracts was given a status of the restriction area. This restriction area means that nobody, non-indigenous people cannot enter into the Chittagong Hill Tracts area with the permission of their local authority. So according to the Chittagong Hill Tracts Regulation 1873, non-indigenous people were not able to enter. Yes, that is it. So we're not able to enter the tribal area without the permission of the local authorities. The Chittagong Hill Tracts Regulation 1873 had recognized their tradition and the customary practices of the tribal people and ensured their rights of the indigenous people and their land during the British era. So during the Pakistan period, the tribal people faced many discrimination in jobs, business, and educational sector. The ultimate goal of the Pakistani government was to exterminate the tribal people from Chittagong hill tracts through its social, political, and economic policy. The major economic breakdown of the Chittagong hill tracts is the Kaptai hydraulic project, which is known as Kaptai Bath, and it is situated in Rangamati Kornopuli River. The Chittagong hill tracts was surrounded by this Kornopuli River, and it was the heart of the tribal people and their livelihood. So, in the name of the so-called industrial development project, displaced about 1 lakh tribal people and flooded into 1,036 square kilometer of the lands and submerged 54% acres of the land. So, because of this industrial development project, the indigenous people had to dislocate into the hilly areas, and many of them crossed the international border, took shelter in India as a refugee, and many of them also took shelter in the hilly areas. So basically, this Kaptai Bath project entirely shallowed down the almost half of the town of Rangamati. So, during the Bangladesh period, the tribal people in Chittagong hill tracts raised their new hope on the Bangladesh new rurals after the mass discrimination and oppression by the Pakistani government. That is why the Chakma leader, Mr. Aman Larma, raised five points for the peace accord with the Bangladeshi government in a democratic way. But the Bangladesh government didn't respect their fundamental rights, and the Bangladesh government instead deployed militarization in 1972. On April 24, 1972, Aman Larma led a different delegation to the Bangladesh Draft Constitution Formation Committee with the goal of presenting it with a memorandum outlining the 5 demands, one of which was for the people of the Chittagong hill tracts to have their regional autonomy with their own legislature. And see that these demands could be included in the constitution. So these were the basically reason of the background of the Chittagong hill tracts. So now let's come back to the problems of the Chittagong hill tracts. What actually indigenous people face in the Chittagong hill tracts, which is situated with the 3 areas: Rangamati, Chittagong, Rangamati, Bandarban, and Khagrachuri. So the first and most foremost, one of the reason I would like to arise is the migration of the Bengali settlers. The migration of the Bengali settlers was an issue since the Pakistan period. Since the CHT wasn't since the CHT was covered with largely Buddhist, so they had this thought that the Chittagong hill tracts was anti-Islamic. So also since then, the Chittagong hill tracts was facing racism in case of ethnicity, cultural, language, and religion. Bangladesh is also known as Muslim country, but the motive was also to mix the tribal people along with the Bengali culture, to ignore the identity of the indigenous people of the Chittagong hill tracts. This initiative was led by the President Zia and Major General Ziaur Rahman, and he became president later on 21st April in 1977. At least 4,000 Bengali settlers were migrated to the Chittagong hill tracts, and this caused differences between the indigenous people and among the Bengali settlers, which was about the cultural problems, religion problems, and the land problems, definitely. And let's come back to the intervention of the military. The people from the plain areas caused the huge damage to the indigenous people in Chittagong hill tracts. That is why majority of Jumma people, they also call themselves as Jumma people, so they migrated to India and settled there. And then the Bengali settlers became the majority people in the Chittagong hill tracts and took over the economy and the society assistance with the military force now. Now, this has created more conflicts between these two communities: political, religious, ethnic, and military contravention, which has resulted in numerous infringement on the human rights of the indigenous people. So let me present you a case along with this. The indigenous people provisions in the constitutional amendment process constituted the biggest military invention in 2011. The Directorate General of the Forces, DGFI, lectured high-level officials in June 2011 on why indigenous people shouldn't be referred as indigenous, how this harmed the country's sovereignty, and how this grant them a special privilege according to the this news is according to the Jugantar and a daily newspaper published in Dhaka. In reality, the military brought up the solution of East Timor and the South Sudan, stating we should think about the Chittagong. Sorry. Okay. So we should think about the Chittagong Hill Trek so that such undesired circumstances could not arise in Chittagong Hill Treks. This is referencing to a leaked minute of the cabinet meeting conducted in January 26 in 2007. Despite persisting to call to be the recognized as indigenous people in the 15th amendment of the Constitution enacted by the Parliament on June 13th in 2011 refers that indigenous people as tribes will be recognized as Upajati or Kudra Nirogoshti, and other ethnic sections and communities will be addressed as Nirogoshti. So now next coming to the next problem I'm coming to is land grabbing. Land grabbing in Bangladesh is another discrediting civil and political rights of the indigenous people. Right. So people, as well as the idea of free, prior, and informed consent, in addition to the cause of the
Jesy, Chakma, so, please. May I intervene, please?
Yes, sir.
We are running out of time, as you know. Yes, may sir. I request you to wrap up in 2 minutes, please?
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
So basically, yes, we the people in Chittagong, living in Chittagong Hill Tracts, they are also affected by the land. So I am coming to the next issue, which is political restraint of media. The media has depicted regional autonomy as a betrayal of the region of the nation's sovereignty. Let me give you an example of this situation of the political restraint of the media. So on 2018, there has been an issue that in Lungudu, this is situated in Rangamati. So at least 200 people were homeless because some Bengali settlers has caused a fire on their home, and they were later on given they were compensated by the government only by the 10,000 taka, which is very much less of which they had cost their land. So this was the issue of the political restraint of the media. And the next issue I'm coming to is arbitration. The justice system in the justice system in the Chittagong Hill Tracts has its existence by the dual justice system in which everyone follows the formal justice system in the country, but one another is customary law by the indigenous people. So the indigenous people basically follows two types of justice system. One is formal system in the entire country, and another one is their customary law. So most of the cases reconciled by the informal justice system in Chittagong Hill Tracts, like stealing, money-related, land grabbing, and household dispute, and some other criminal cases. So at least the indigenous women were very active in this arbitration process. So the next one I am coming to is analysis with the international human rights law. Yes.
If you excuse me, Jesy,
yes,
can you please put forward recommendations, and then we can go for question and answer session.
Okay.
What are your recommendations for this paper, please?
So for this paper is, as we know that none of the government and the indigenous people are trying to implement the peace record that has been signed by the MN Larma, that has been proposed by the MN Larma and government and the Bangladesh government. That was signed, but the implementation has been done yet. So we all need to, those who we are as a human rights activists, those who knows the issue of between the government and the Chittagong Hill Tracts, we should raise this issue, and we should be more careful about their human rights, and along with the peace record. Another thing I would suggest is that and another one I suggest is through arbitration, since the arbitration is the one and only process we can do where both the parties can sit together and discuss the matters, what they can consider and what they not. That's how I think we can bring a good differences in the Chittagong Interest. That's it. Thank you so much.
You are very welcome. Thank you so much too. Yes, if you have any comment or questions to the presenter, please.
This is
Yes.
my mole. I'm interested to say a few words.
Yes, sir. Please. Go ahead, sir.
See, what I found now, there is a triangle. One is Bangladeshi government, another is refugee interest and the local people interest, on the other hand, involvement of the international organization. In this triangle, there is no real common grounds to deal with the human rights situation. Crime rates are increasing very fast, and there is no real picture at sight to send the refugees back to their homeland. Under these circumstances, as you have asked also, presenter, what is your recommendation? I think that is the most important part of this research as well as presentation. If there are not so much of realistic to solve the problems, then all these data collections on all these things we are doing. In fact, I have wrote 2 books about Rohingya refugees and our interest in the hill tax areas. We mean Bangladeshis, both the local indigenous people as well as Bangladeshi people as Bengalis. So this would be very nice, as you have mentioned. It would be very nice if you do some further study and give us some very well thought out recommendation that could be presented to foreign audience as well as other stakeholders, so that they can go for some systematic remedy to the alarming situation in that land. Because this is the most beautiful land of Bangladesh. And last 6-7 years, we have destroyed most of it. And if we don't tackle this issue quickly, then we will be in a miserable state, to express myself about my concern.
Sir, with your reference, I would like to answer to your questions right now. What I think is, with your reference, as you have said, that Chittagong Hill Tracts is a very beautiful land. It is a very beautiful area in Bangladesh. At least it is measuring a lot of areas in Chittagong Hill Tracts. What I would like to say is, yes, we might not have common grounds among the Bengalis and the government, but we do have only one option, that we can be aligned together and work on this together. And I would like to say is that is economy. So if Chittagong Hill Tracts can bring economy to the Bangladesh government, how is it not possible that we cannot work together? And another thing is, as it is now, it is banned that the indigenous people cannot join in military. But these military people already do trainings to go on the mountains and whatever they do. But the thing is, the indigenous people living in Chittagong Hill Tracts, this has been their whole livelihood, their childhood, that they have been going to the mountains. They can swim. They are basically physically fit from their childhood, so they can join in the military, on which the Bengalis are already doing the trainings for the military. So what the issue is, that if you can raise this issue and we can work along together with the help of the arbitration, then definitely, yes, we can improve the environment, I would like to say, and the political situations in the Chittagong Hill Tracts.
Okay. Thank you,
very
thank
much.
you, thank you.
May I have one small comments
Yeah,
on?
yeah, please.
As long as it is very interesting topic, of course there might have some controversy. There is no problem. I may not agree with you. Someone may not agree with me, which is fine. This is freedom of speech, which I try to highlight in my speech. So, what I believe, Jesy, Chakma, as Professor Moin Khan highly recommended, you dig more and conduct some more research. Let us wrap it up, find out some transparent freedom of speech with truth and facts, right? If I do not speak with fact and truth, then this freedom of speech will go against someone else. And this is a violation of human rights. You see what I mean? So if I say I need to have freedom of speech, it must respect others. I cannot just say whatever I say. It must be respectful, it must be transparent, it must be truthful. So I am 100% agreeing with Professor Khan to you go and dig more, find your research, come with some solid solution and come up and present it in next conference, next year.
Yeah, yeah,
Conference.
good idea.
Yeah.
Good
So
idea.
we will promote it definitely because we are here to establish justice. Whoever is, wherever it is, his or her ethnicity, we don't really care. We only care as a Canadian organization, educational organization, the diversity of the people, the justice in the society. Peace and justice are the key. And all these so called we are talking about since the morning, the sustainability. These are part of the sustainability. If I do not implement the justice, then everything is going to be jeopardized. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Jesy is an LLM, Master of Law, and she is a bright student. She was a student of mine too, and I in line with your suggestion, I would encourage her to go for your PhD studies on this topic. Yeah, and next time we'll hear from you again. Okay, Jesy? Did you hear me?
Yes, sir, I did hear you.
Okay. So we are looking forward to your PhD dissertation and see you again in a future conference.